Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke. I'm Carol Hinguler, your worship associate this morning. And it is so good to see you all here, particularly on National Ice Cream Day. You might not have known that, huh? But be sure to put it on your calendar for next year. It's the third Sunday in July, National Ice Cream Day. Anyway, it's great to see you all here. It's great to see you also on YouTube. Thank you so much for being with us. We especially like to welcome any visitors. We love to have visitors, and we think you'll find this an enriching opportunity, and we'll hope you come back again. Our traditional words of welcome. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you express your identity, whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you are filled with sadness, overflowing with joy, needing to be alone with yourself, or eager to engage with others, all who welcome all are welcome here. Our minister, Reverend Walter LaFleur, is away on a sabbatical, which is a kind of a work, study, learning thing, and some vacation time too, which he very much deserves. He will be back towards the end of the summer. This morning, we have a special program. Our guest speaker is Betsy Osborne from Healing Strides of Virginia. I'll tell you more about her a little bit later on. Sound the bell for our 7 principles. Our covenant. We commit to supporting each other with respect and direct communication as we work in community to explore spiritual growth and to be a force for good in the world. Teresa is going to help me with the chalice lighting. May this flame be as the light of wisdom in our minds and as the warmth of love in our hearts.
Will inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of light.
Let us rejoice in the light of the day, in the glory and warmth of the summer sun, and in the blooming and bursting of new life. Let us rejoice in the earth with its grass and trees, its weeds and flowers, its many fruits and hidden treasures. Let us rejoice together this day.
It says, how much is that doggy in the window? Down just a little bit lower. But that's not what I'm actually going to sing, because Anna Tulu sent me a fabulous song called Walking My Dog. And she was supposed to be here to sing it, so we learned it, but she couldn't be here. She has somebody sick in her family, so she couldn't be here today, so I'm going to sing everything. But I'm not going to sing How Much Is That Doggy in the Window, because she sent me the song, and I loved it so much that I had to learn it. And I do not have a dog, nor do I want a dog. But this song makes me understand what people who do love dogs are feeling all the time. Not that I don't love dogs. I like them from afar, but I'm just not a dog person. Okay, and this is called Walking My Dog by Nellie McKay. I'm just walking my dog, singing my song, strolling along. Yeah, it's just me and my dog, catching some sun. We can't go wrong. My life was lonely and blue. Yeah, I was sad as a sailor. I was an angry one too. Then there was you, appeared when I was entangled with youth and fear, and nerves jingle jangle, vermouth and beer were getting me mangled up. But then I looked into your eyes, and I was no more a failure. You look so wacky and wise. And I said, Lord, I'm happy, 'cause I'm just walking my dog, singing my song, strolling along. It's just me and my dog, catching some sun. We can't go wrong, 'cause I don't care about your hating and your doubt, and I don't care what the politicians spout. If you need a companion, we'll just go right by the pound and find yourself a hound and make that doggy proud, 'cause that's what it's all about. Woof! My life was tragic and sad. Yeah, I was the archetypal loser. I was a pageant gone bad. Then there was you on time and wagging your tail in the cutest mime, and you was in jail. I said, woof, be mine, and you gave me a whale. And then I was no longer alone, and I was no more a loser. We'll make the happiest home. And I said, Lord, I'm happy, 'cause I'm just walking my dog, singing my song, strolling along. It's just me and my dog, catching some sun. We can't go wrong, 'cause I don't care about your hating and your doubt, and I don't care what the politicians spout. If you need a companion, we'll just go right by the pound and find yourself a hound and make that doggy proud, 'cause that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Wow, wow. That's what it's all about.
Thank you, Carrie. That was perfect because today I have a really cool story about dogs and horses. My name is Jessie McEwen. I am the Director of Lifespan Faith Development here at UUCR. And today I want to tell you about Shunka Wakan. Shunka means dog. So once upon a time, not that very long ago, the Lakota people, who we know as nomadic Plains Indians or Native Americans or indigenous peoples, they weren't nomadic. They traveled a little bit, and dogs, very loyal, wonderful dogs, pulled their things. So you can imagine that it was a little bit difficult to move from place to place. Dogs are strong, dogs are bold, dogs run when they see squirrels, dogs tend to, not be able to carry that much stuff. But the Lakota people, when agriculture ended where they were, they would move to another spot, not that far away. And the trip was tiresome. They grew weary. It was difficult to move from place to place, but it was necessary because we needed to grow more things. So they would load up these really cool things that the chunka, the dogs would pull behind them. They would go, they would chase their dogs every now and then they would settle again. And they would pray to Tunkashila, creator, we need a better way. There's got to be a better way. And one day, as they were traveling, they came over a ridge and saw a plain full of giant dogs. These were horses. And they said, this is it. So they called them Shunka Wakan. Wakan means holy. Wakan means something inside of us that speaks to Creator, speaks to nature. These Shunka Wakan were sent to help the Lakota move from place to place. So they approached them. As you can imagine, it didn't work out perfectly at first, but they learned if you're kind and you're gentle and you have a steady approach, these Shunka Wakan would help them. Shunka Wakan wanted to help them. And horses became a way of life for the Lakota. Horses are still part of the Lakota way of life. If you go to a ceremony like Sundance or Vision Quest, there could be a Shunka Wakan there. And you just have to have a steady approach. And they learned that when they're tired and when we're weary and it's difficult to go on, Shunka Wakan may stand in that gap and help us go forward, lend us some strength. How many people in here have put their hand on a horse and felt how strong that horse is, but how gentle that strength can be? That is Shunka Wakan. So as you hear about horses this morning, adults, and as you join us, kiddos, for some hobby horse races out in the lobby, think about what Shunka Wakan can provide and how Shunka Wakan can stand for you when it's difficult for you to stand for yourself. Thank you. And we'll meet right outside that door.
Thank you, Jessie. It's always good to learn new things. We Give Thanks for the Animals is a reading by Gary Kowalski. We give thanks for the animals who live close to nature, who remind us of the sanctities of birth and death, who do not trouble their lives with foreboding or grief, who let each moment go as it passes and accept each new one as it comes with serenity and grace. Enable us to walk in beauty as they do, as one with the turning seasons, welcoming the sunrise and at peace with the sunset. Let us not be anxious for tomorrow, but ask only that kindness and gratitude fill our hearts day by day into the passing year. Thus ends the reading. Now, I believe I promised to introduce Betsy Osborne better, which I'm going to do now. Let me tell you a little bit about Betsy, who's sitting right over here in case you didn't realize. Betsy has had a love of horses for most of her life. Not only has she ridden horses from the age of 7, she volunteered at several therapeutic horseback riding programs throughout her high school and college years. After graduating from UVA with a BA in History and Government, Betsy became certified to teach therapeutic riding. Certified to teach therapeutic riding through Path International. In the following years, she added equine specialist in mental health and learning. Excuse me, I'm losing my place here. Equine specialist in mental health and learning, and mentor to her Path International credentials. Additionally, she has been certified as an equine specialist through IGALA, the global standard for equine-assisted psychotherapy and personal development, since 2015. Starting in 2013, Betsy has been an instructor at Healing Strides in Boones Mill, currently holding the roles of program director and head instructor. Betsy loves spending time with her 2 horses, Hanky and Bounder, and her dog, Ella. And one other thing about Betsy, she happens to have been my riding instructor for the last few years, and she's really great. Okay, Betsy, it's all yours.
Hello. I am very short, so we have a second option for a microphone if we end up going or needing that. Let me get set up here just a second. I also think that I can work with my slides on my phone. Can everybody hear me? Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Okay. As Carol said, my name is Betsy Osborne. I am so incredibly excited to be here talking with you about animal-assisted interventions today. When Carol first asked me several months ago, I wasn't really certain which direction I was going to go or how I was going to even start to condense this quite expansive field into just 15 or 20 minutes, but I'm going to do my best. The slides that I have do have some words on them, some information. I'm a therapeutic riding instructor, so I know not everybody is an auditory learner. Some people need some visuals, so don't feel like you need to read every word on the slide, but if I'm starting to sound a little boring in your ear, you can definitely check up and see what's going on. And I actually think I am going to move to the other microphone. Is this okay? Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, and I'm just going to stand off. So Carol did a beautiful job at introducing me, so we don't particularly need my first slide, which, well, maybe. Oh, here we go. A little about me. So we don't particularly need my first slide, but I think that I just really wanted to show you a picture of my horse. That is Hanky with me on the left. I have a feeling like my photos might be a little whitewashed, so I apologize for that. These are my credentials. I'll talk a little bit about why I think credentials in this industry are important a little bit later on in the slideshow. There we go. I'm going to get this right. So what are animal-assisted interventions? So basically, it's a pretty broad term, and it's really describing any partnership or relationship that you're building with an animal that ends up helping humans in turn. So this is actually from the American Veterinary Medicine Association website, which is where I got a lot of my information for the animal-assisted intervention side of things. I will fully admit I have an expertise in the equine side of things, so my animal-assisted intervention information is fairly general. Who benefits from it? I think the most important thing to think about in terms of animal-assisted interventions is that both human and animal benefit from it. When you're looking at, I will avoid often using the term using animals. I don't think that it's the best way of really describing how we partner with them, but really making sure that there is a mutual benefit in terms of there's no harm, pain, fear, anything like that happening on either the side of the human or the animal. That's kind of one of the tenets that we really try and follow in terms of animal-assisted interventions. But really anybody can benefit from it. Obviously, there may be some restrictions, but if you're working with a professional, most of the time you guys can talk through that. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to get this right. What kind of animal can be involved? So interestingly, initially I was like, any animal can be involved. And then I realized that's probably not true at all. So I did change it to domesticated animals. I don't know that we want like a
a therapy cougar or something like that happening. So for the most part, it's dogs, it's horses. There are birds, there's cats, there's some reptiles that are involved in animal-assisted interventions. There's all sorts of situations. Rabbits even. I do have a friend that has a therapy chicken, which is not beneficial to me because I'm terrified of chickens, but others, I believe, do benefit from that. One of the biggest pieces of what animals can be involved is there a professional that understands how to incorporate that animal into whatever service or activity is being offered. That's kind of the big key on that one, as well as it being mutual. The person receiving the activity or the service needs to understand why the animal is there and that they're okay with it. Let's see. I don't know why I can't figure out if it's the bottom one. Where can you find it? So this is our one of our minis, Braveheart. It's one of my favorite pictures that we have of him. He's in front of our. I didn't get the whole picture in. It's in front of our kissing booth. So you could, for a small donation, you could partake in the kissing booth with Braveheart here, and he was happy to do it. We've also done carrot booths before as well. You can find it in a lot of places. One of the things, again, I'll talk about a little bit later, the broad term of animal therapy or pet therapy is pretty widely used. And my goal today is to kind of parcel that out a little bit and help you guys understand why those terms are not really the most effective in really helping people get services that they might need that involve animals. But you can really find it anywhere. Your goal is that you would like to find a professional that has credentials or training or certifications to involve that animal in any service that you are getting. Google is a great resource, as we all know. I was telling Carrie, it never lies. But you do want to make sure that you are you're doing your own research, if there is any certifying body for whatever it is that you're looking for, that person probably has that training or that credentialing. So references are also a great source. And down. So this is a lot of words, but what kind of interventions or services are there? There's a lot, and that's one of the reasons that the term pet therapy or animal therapy is confusing. In fact, most of the time when I hear pet therapy or equine therapy, it just pops in my brain that it's like the animal that's receiving the therapy. So it's a pretty commonly used term, but one that as providers can be confusing, and it's kind of our job to really start to understand what that person is trying to benefit from incorporating animals. So there's clinical therapies, there's educational services, there's motivational or recreational activities that can involve animals. I am going to do just a quick note on service animals because they're a bit of a different category. This is the definition of a service animal. It's primarily dogs, and I believe miniature horses, in fact, can be a service animal. But they are not considered, for the most part, animal-assisted interventions. Animal-assisted interventions, as I said, are something that incorporates animals into a service for the benefit of both. Service dogs are really medical devices is kind of how they term it, primarily for insurance purposes. You'll see a lot of awkward phrases when it comes to animals and therapy and insurance. So that's one of the awkward phrases. But yeah, so service dogs are a little bit different. I'm not really going to be talking too much about them today, but they're not really considered animal-assisted interventions. If you have any questions about service animals, the ADA website is amazing. It really has a lot of facts, spreads out a lot of information, and breaks it down for people who are in situations like a church where they would be welcoming people that have service dogs or guide dogs. Or miniature horses. I'm just saying. We do have a few, not trained. Okay, so I'm going to switch over just a little bit into, as I said, my specialty is equine assisted services, and it's really, like I said, when Carol invited me, it's always so wonderful to talk about the things that you love, and I'm just really lucky that not only do I get to talk about it, but it is what I do. It's my career, it is my job, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. If you guys ever have any questions, feel free to ask me. But I'm going to kind of just delve into what equine assisted services are before I share a few stories. So equine assisted services is a pretty broad term that basically allows professionals to incorporate animals of some sort into, or excuse me, horses, equines of some sort into other services to the benefit of people. Each one of these services that I'm going to talk about and break down have different goals, guidelines, laws, even sometimes. And so it can be confusing for us that are in the field to really navigate it. So it's, as you can imagine, especially challenging sometimes for people who are just interested in exploring what it is, not really certain what they need. So I did talk a little bit about, or excuse me, Carol talked a little bit about my credentials. Credentialing, training, certifications are really wonderful. There's lots of them out there, but they provide guidelines, they provide standards, they provide ways of, best practices, basically, for what we're doing. That really helps the entire team that's facilitating the service be sure, like, it ensures that they know what they're doing, not just in the activity or in the service, but basically throughout the entire care of that animal that's being partnered with. I am PATH International Certified and EGALA certified, but it's not just an American thing. There are credentialing organizations and certifying bodies really across the world, which is why it's really important when you are seeking out something like equine assisted services that you feel comfortable and confident that the people know what they're doing. So just like the broader animal assisted interventions, there are different kinds of services. There's psychotherapy or counseling, which is a clinical therapy where a mental health professional partners with an equine specialist and offers that service. There's also another clinical therapy that is included in equine assisted interventions, but it also has one of those awkward phrases, which is hippotherapy. It's primarily called physical therapy, speech therapy, or occupational therapy, equine assisted physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy now. But hippotherapy is basically the therapist utilizing the equine as a dynamic platform. Is the phrase that is often used. And so basically, depending on what therapy is being done, the horse is an incredible opportunity for input and movement. Sitting on the back of a horse stimulates a lot of the same muscles and proprioceptive skills that like just walking down the street would do. And so it's a really amazing opportunity. It's also a huge motivation for kids and adults to take part in that. There's lots of other services, just making sure I'm on the right one. Therapeutic horsemanship, which we're going to talk a little bit about more in depth, which is, again, it's teaching people how to ride horses in a potentially adaptive way or therapeutic way. There's therapeutic driving, where they're in a cart. They have adaptive carts for individuals in wheelchairs or with other mobility issues. So you can actually be in the cart behind the horse, driving the horse forward. There's also interactive vaulting. Now, vaulting is not a commonly known equestrian sport. It is basically gymnastics and horseback riding combined into one. The therapeutic version of it is not quite as flippy as the original version, but it is definitely an incredible opportunity to really see some change in kids. And there's tons more other equine assisted services as well. So what is therapeutic horsemanship? Therapeutic horsemanship is as I said, is really about learning how to work with and ride horses. The first step of this, and the kind of principle of what we do, is you're building a relationship with the horse, potentially in an adaptive way. And what I mean by that is there are lots of individuals that come to therapeutic horsemanship with lots of different goals. And we'll talk a little bit about the benefits of them in just a second, but we can adapt equipment, we can adapt our way of teaching, we can adapt the level of assistance that they need. We can have people help them lead their horses, we can have people walk beside them while they are riding, either just as a support, walking beside them, or even doing specific holes that are helping them safely stay in the saddle. So there's lots of different adaptations that we can use to help build that partnership. Learning about how a horse communicates its needs and emotions. It's a very unique situation if you've never been around horses to all of a sudden be confronted with one. It is a totally different animal. Their communication style is nothing like ours. And we really have to strip down a lot of what we consider communication to be open to understanding what it is that they're trying to tell us. And then, of course, is that a wrong pin? There we go. And then, of course, learning to respond and to really develop that trust in a way that can allow people to go forward. These foundations can take you anywhere, whether you want to ride in a circle around the ring or whether you want to go to the Olympics. But that foundation is really what starts the ball rolling. Benefits of therapeutic horsemanship, so many. Really too many to even list on here. One of the great things about therapy, and so I'm using the word horsemanship, I'm sorry. Horse people have the weirdest terms, and sometimes we throw them out there and forget that they're weird. So horsemanship is basically doing anything with horses. Therapeutic riding is another way of saying it, but not everybody gets on a horse. Not everybody can get on a horse. And we don't want anybody to think that just because you can't be on the back of a horse that you can't still be a horse person, that you can't still fall in love with horses and learn about horses and grow and change from being with horses. So we call it therapeutic horsemanship is the broad term. So of course there's physical benefits to being on the back of a horse or even just being around horses. But there's also a lot of life skill based benefits. And I've listed some up here. One of my favorites is really thinking about, especially for kids. It's the summertime. We have a lot of teens and young kids at our facility right now. But responsibility and accountability. I believe to this day that I used to always be told, "Oh, you're so mature for your age." I actually wasn't, but I was told that a lot, and I think part of that was because I was pretty confident as a 12-year-old, leading around a 1,200-pound animal, and if they got silly, just being like, "Shh, stop," And there's a lot, and I'm responsible for that animal, making sure that they're safe, making sure that I loved the thing that was said earlier about just putting your hand on that horse and how soft and gentle they are, but really understanding the power that is behind, that it's underneath your hand. And it's very, very true. So there's so many benefits. Building confidence is a huge one. Understanding yourself a little bit better. There's just many wonderful things that can come from just being around horses. These are our ponies out in the field. The front one, it's this gray mare is Eclipse, and then she kind of has her friends trailing behind her. But a lot of people ask us, why horses? A lot of the same things I'm going to say really can be said for most animal-assisted interventions. But again, I'm a crazy horse girl, so I'm gonna primarily talk about why did I choose to work with horses and not dogs or cats or other animals who are just absolutely wonderful in helping people heal as well. Horses cannot help but be themselves. They can't lie. They can't hide what they're feeling. And really, we can't hide what we're feeling from them. They're very non-judgmental. I loved the song as well, that Carrie sang. It was so funny because there were so many things that were said that I just sat there and thought, that's with horses too. They don't judge. There's nothing that we typically care about when we meet somebody else, what they look like, how they sound, what we know about their past, what we know about their future. They don't care about that stuff. That's not really anything that they interpret or feel from us at all. They're energy-based creatures. And so they're really very much in the moment, trying to figure out who we are and what we want to partner, or why we want to partner with them. They are very curious. They're prey animals, but they are typically very curious. And there's a lot of potential there when you're looking at a curious animal, for both parties to grow and change and develop a relationship. So what does it take to be an equine assisted services horse? We get that question a lot. And again, I think the same would probably apply for most other animals. Why? Why horses? Why, of all of the cool things that we could do in the world, did I choose to do horses? And there's not particularly a singular answer for that, but it is something that is hard to explain. We do some training with our horses. Absolutely. We do a lot of training with our horses. A lot of them have sort of secondary lives that they've come into therapeutic riding after. Whether it's being a fancy dressage horse, or cutting cows, or being in the rodeo, or jumping fences. There's lots of different or simply being a family trail horse. There's lots of different things that horses have done before they come to us in an equine assisted services program. But we are looking for horses that want to do this job. Thinking back to that first slide about what is animal assisted interventions, they have to want to do this job. They have to be happy doing this job. They have to be comfortable doing this job. We're not looking for horses that don't spook at anything or run away from anything. We look for horses that are willing to pause, who are willing to look to us and say, this is a scary moment right now, but we're good. Are we okay? Am I safe to continue to stay here? And then we can communicate back to them, yes, or very rarely no, but typically we foster that trust and that relationship between horse and human enough that we're really able to have horses that are engaged and curious and happy, without having to be dull to what is going on around them. Okay. I'm going to tell a few stories now, if that's okay. So this is Dewey. The lovely lady in the picture is not, it was not related to this story. This is his owner. But Dewey was in a session. He's now he's about 28 years old, but at the time he was about 24, 25. He's a thoroughbred. He used to be a racehorse, and he's had 3 or 4 careers before he came to Healing Strides. And he ended up being really pivotal, and still is, in our mental health education and coaching program that we have. It's ground-based. And in one particular session, Dewey was with a young gentleman, again, probably 14, 15 years old. And the greatest thing about horses is that they really are going to tell you what they're going to do well before they do it. When people say, oh, he did this out of nowhere, it's probably not true. Not everybody knows what to look for. And even when we do know what to look for, sometimes we're just so caught up in what we're doing that we don't always take the time to listen. And so we had given this gentleman a task to move him somewhere, do something with Dewey. I honestly don't remember because it was not that important to the story. And so he goes over and he's a big guy. He's not a small kid. And he starts kind of pushing on Dewey and pulling on his shoulder and his hip and doing all these different things. And Dewey, and it's myself and a mental health professional in the arena, Dewey starts flicking an ear, like back and forth. And I'm like, okay, I know Dewey, he's annoying you, I get it. And he does this for a while, just repeats that same kind of signal over and over. And as the horse person, I have to think, is he okay with this? And he seemed okay. So then the kid's not hurting him, but he's asking him to move, and Dewey doesn't want to. So he then starts picking up a back foot and just putting it down. And when feet start to get involved as a horse person, you think, okay, I just want to make sure everyone stays safe. But I know Dewey really well. And I said, okay, all right, we're going to let it ride for a second. And he did that again, 15, 20, 25 times, that same little warning of, I'm not comfortable with this. And the kid just keeps going on. And he's actually acknowledging, he says, I know I'm annoying him. I know that this is annoying to him. I know what he's trying to tell me. And he gets to a point that after a while, and I've told my person, like, I think he may throw a little kick. I'm just letting you know. And he does. And it just barely grazes the guy's leg and doesn't hurt him at all. And he jumps back and he's completely shocked that this happened. And of course, I'm not shocked at all because Dewey's been saying for about 10 minutes that he would like for him to stop. So the point of me telling the story is not that our horse kicked a kid, but that actually the next week after, we kind of continued this on for a little while, and he never did that again. But as we got toward the end of our time with this gentleman, he came up to us one day and said, okay, I think I've kind of figured out Dewey. And we said, well, what do you mean? He said, that's how I approach everybody in my life. I just run up and I want them to do what I want them to do when I want them to do it. And I have no patience for anything that they want me to do or any alternative that they're requesting of me, anything that they can't do it, whatever it is. I have no patience for it. And so I push and I push and I push and I push until they lash out at me. And then I can be mad. And then I can be upset. And then I can say, I cannot believe you yelled at me like that, or I can't believe that you kicked me, or I can't believe you would be so mean to me. And so it was a real epiphany for this gentleman that having that little moment with Dewey led him to this realization about how he interacts really with most people in his world. So that's Dewey. He's magical. I'm not going to think I'm going to have time for all of them. But let's see. I'll do this one real quick. So this is one of our veterans. This is the gentleman in the story. And Icefield. Icefield at the time was, I believe, 7 years old, which is pretty young for a therapy horse. And John is a veteran. And John told me a long time ago that, I have permission to tell the story, a long time ago that one of his goals was to jump. And John was not a horseback rider when he came to us as a volunteer. And so he'd been here for 5 or 6 years. And one day it was his 29th birthday. And he was deciding that, I was deciding rather, how I was going to handle this birthday situation. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Ice, and Ice is looking at me. And I'm looking at Icefield, and he's looking at me. And we're having this like horse human situation. And I'm like, are we going to do it? And he's like, yeah, we're going to do it. And I was like, okay. So end of our lesson, I put up a little, it's called a cross rail. It's just a little X on the ground. And I was like, all right, John, take him on over. And he's looking at me like I'm insane. He's never jumped before. And I said, nope, off you go. You're going to do it. And Ice was so game. He took such good care of him, and off they went over that cross rail. He never wanted to do it again, but he said, I did it once. And that was good enough. So that's Icefield. What's our other story? So this is another Icefield story, in fact, but this, we have a veterans drill team, an opportunity for veterans drill team at Healing Strides. And these two veterans that are riding right now and have been riding for a while are fairly new to pairing up with each other. And it's a really incredible situation because one of the veterans is, they're both Army, but she spent a good amount of the last few years with another veteran who really helped her out in becoming independent. When they started doing their drill team work, so drill team is where you have in at least 2, but up to however many riders, and you do a pattern, and there's usually pairs that are going around and doing different maneuvers and stuff. And they started real simple, and they decided they were going to do a drill team together. And so Sayward was really leaning on her partner in this whole again, probably 2 or 3 years of doing this. And she grew and developed and learned and got to a point that they did their drill team completely independently. Well, about a year ago, the roles were reversed. And the veteran that Sayward relied on no longer rode. And we have a new veteran that came in who is really wanting to be independent, but hadn't quite gotten there yet. And I mean independent as in no sidewalkers walking beside him, no leader leading his horse. And he'd been working on different things. And anyway, they ended up just a few weeks ago. This was a trust exercise on my part as well for the horses. I just kind of let them go. I just said, you know what? You guys need to learn how to talk to each other, how to talk to your horses, how to communicate as a team. And it could have gone one of many ways. But what ended up happening was the horses understood their assignment. The riders didn't talk for the first 5 minutes, which I thought was really funny. And then they just started talking to each other. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Well, why don't we do this? Okay, that sounds good. You need to scoot up just a little bit. We're a little far apart. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll scoot up. Oh, you're a little too close now. And they just started going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And by the end of this one lesson, they were in sync. They were going around the ring. The horses were comfortable and happy. They were comfortable and happy. And we've done this several times at this point. And I have very high hopes for a pretty incredible drill team between these two. So if any of you guys are veterans and you're interested in joining a veterans drill team, this is my plug right now for our veterans drill team. But that's those guys. Cookie is the mare in that picture. So where do we go from here? Evidence-based research, right? I could tell you 15 other stories that I would probably cry in most of them. I actually specifically avoided telling a story where I was going to cry. But there's so many anecdotal situations, and the reality is that most people like evidence-based research. So it's a huge area that we're trying to expand, into and get to where we need to be. More professional preparation and better animal welfare standards. Oftentimes, animals get a little bit left behind in some of these adventures, and we really want to make sure we're doing what we can by them. How can you participate in this future? Well, you could become a participant. You could decide that you want to be part of an animal-assisted intervention in some way, shape, or form. You can volunteer your time in organizations that do these interventions. Healing Strides of Virginia is just down the road in Boone's Mill. And you can also support organizations in lots of different ways that offer these services. So I think that's it. There's lots of opportunities, even in the Roanoke Valley, to be a part of something like this. I love talking about it. I love being a part of it. It's an incredible opportunity to put us that much closer to the world and to nature and to some of the relationships that we're meant to have. So thank you guys so very much. This is my email address if you ever have any questions. I'm also happy to hang around for just a second afterwards and chat with anybody that would like to. So thank you guys.
This is a Raffi song, so if you know it, you're welcome to sing along. Listen to the horses clipping, clopping, hoofbeats everywhere, never stopping. Gonna ride my Palomino, ride 'em to the fair. Listen to the horses clipping, clopping, hoofbeats everywhere, never stopping. Gonna ride my Palomino, ride 'em to the fair.
Really enjoyed the stories, Betsy, and the information. Thank you. The offertory will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values. It is your generous support that enables us to fulfill our mission within these walls and in the wider community. And the ushers will pass the basket.
Good morning. I'm Linda Wood from the Caring Committee, and I'm here to represent them today and to tell you we haven't spoken lately about some of the things that the Caring Committee does for our congregation, and what we do, why we exist mainly is to support members and friends in times of physical stress, in times of emotional stress, in times of mourning. And in times, we like to celebrate with you when there's a birth or a wedding or an award. So that's what we do. And one of the things that we do to that ends is to gather information and share it with you on Sunday mornings. If you have anything that you would like to share, you can tell a member of the Caring Committee, you can call Sam in the church office, or you can put it in the book, the Lifelines book, which is on the altar on Sunday mornings, and it's also by the name tags during the week. So into this space of sacredness, let's bring some joys. It's always a joy to look at the beautiful art that we have on our walls. And new art is hanging on our walls. So please take a few minutes to look at it before or after church. Our church gets a portion of the sales if you should decide to take one of these beauties home with you. I'd also like to tell you that Reverend Kirk Ballin is offering pastoral care this summer while Reverend Walter LaFleur is away. The last thing is that Mary Binky wants you to know, all of her UU friends, that she has moved to Woodland Hills Assisted Living. And Mary's new address, I noticed it was in the bulletin. Also, I wrote it in the Lifelines book so that if you would like to write it down and send her a card, or so that you would know where you can find her in the future. I think I want to share something in my family that it started out as a concern and kind of changed to a joy. 2 weeks ago, my daughter and her husband and all 3 of her children came down with COVID. And this was a great concern, of course. My daughter, Julia, is high risk, so we've always been very protective of her. But they all did fine. They all had mild cases, and that morphed into the joy of their recovery, but also this deep gratitude and joy I have for all the amazing scientists and doctors who developed the vaccines that are keeping us all safe. That just fills me with joy whenever I think about it. So, lots of us have things in our hearts that we don't share out loud or don't share with the caring committee. So I'd like you to think on those things right now while Carol and I light a candle to represent what's going on in your life. So may our prayers be heard and our thoughts and hearts be restored.
Carol, I bring you news from the board. Our first meeting of the fiscal year was this last week. The first thing that we worked on is creating a bio and suitable picture of all of your board members so that you'll know who they are and find them more easily recognized. We are going to augment that with a spatial colored name tag for each of them so that just by the color, you can find a board member anytime you need one. We also talked about a retreat in mid-September. We plan to do 3 working stations, and among other things that we will accomplish, we'll lay out the church's activity calendar for the coming year. Under new business, your safety committee came to us with a request for money to provide training in CPR for 5 of their members. These are the members of the congregation whose job is to monitor the halls and the doors while we are at worship. And they're called the safety committee. And this will give them some needed training. Excuse me. We also had another request from the Green Team to renew our membership in the Virginia Cooperative Network. This is a group that we have been in for a number of years and links up very closely with our commitment to the 7th principle. This is an environmental protection group here in Virginia. We have decided now to move our meetings to the second Tuesday of each month, where they had been on the second Monday, excuse me. And that was just to accommodate the schedules of everybody. One thing that I'm very proud of, we worked on our board liaison assignments. Here a year or 2 ago, the board decided that we needed to have a more direct contact with the 20 or so committees that we have going on here in the church. So we assigned all the board members to 2 or 3 of those groups to be their direct liaison. So whenever they have issues that require board support or input, they can come right to us. And so we assigned the newbies to some of those positions and got everybody on board for that this year. Erica Joyner has moved over now to our Vice President of Finance and tells us that we have ended this last fiscal year with a surplus. Again, this is primarily because of lower capacity in utilities and in lifespan faith development. We also are planning to do a financial review. Peggy Cooper, Barbara Bachner, and Melissa Curry have volunteered to assist with this in August. It is required by our bylaws that we be monitored every couple of years. She also is looking for an income coordinator. This is someone who would come by the church once a week and they would summarize all of the income coming into the church for that week. And that can be from, of course, our pledges, from rentals, from whatever. But she's looking for an income coordinator. And Erica, if you would stand up, or so everybody knows who you are, you can get in touch with Erica if you might be interested in assisting with that. Lastly, unfortunately, Anna isn't here with us today to share the good news, but she's over the top for her second year at theology school at Meadville Lombard, one of the leading schools in UUA in Chicago. And that's it. Thank you.
Couple more things. We want to remind you that the plaques for the Memorial Garden are once again available. So if there is a former member or friend of UUCR that you would like to honor with a plaque, you need to get in touch with our administrator, Samantha, Sam. They are $150. That's to get them engraved and mounted and maintenance of the garden. So the plaques are available. Contact Sam. And the other announcement, which is really important here, we're having coffee outside. This is our coffee, not in a box. It's in an urn. And we have regular coffee, we have decaf coffee, and we have tea. We're getting really fancy here today. And the best thing is it's all free. So we hope to see you out in the garden after the service. That's all the announcements that we have.
Today is If I Had a Boat by Lyle Lovett, one of my favorite songwriters. And I'm just going to say it was better when Anna and I were singing it together. But so if you know it, you're welcome to sing it along. And if you don't know it, it's I guess based on a story about Lyle Lovett going out and riding his pony across the water and realizing that it would be better to have a boat. Both things, horses, ponies, and boats kind of symbolize independence and freedom. And as we go through the song, he talks about maybe some childhood heroes like Roy Rogers or the Lone Ranger, and then he decides he'd rather be like lightning and be completely free altogether. And if I had a boat, I'd go out on the ocean. And if I had a pony, I'd ride him on my boat. And we could all together go out on the ocean. I said, me upon my pony on my boat. And if I were Roy Rogers, I'd sure enough be single, Couldn't bring myself to marry no Dale. And it'd just be me and Trigger. We go riding through the movies. We buy a boat and on the sea we'd sail. If I had a boat, I'd go out on the ocean. And if I had a pony, I'd ride him on my boat. And we could all together go out on the ocean. I said, me upon my pony on my boat. The mystery masked man was smart. He got himself a Tonto, 'cause Tonto did the dirty work for free. But Tonto, he was smarter. One day said, Kimosabi, kiss my ass, I bought a boat. I'm going out to sea. If I had a boat, I'd go out on the ocean. And if I had a pony, I'd ride him on my boat. We could all together go out on the ocean. I said, me upon my pony on my boat. And if I were like lightning, I wouldn't need no sneakers. I come and go whenever I would please. And I'd scare 'em by the shade tree, and I'd scare 'em by the light pole. But I would not scare my pony on my boat out on the sea. And if I had a boat, I'd go out on the ocean. And if I had a pony, I'd ride him on my boat. We could all together go out on the ocean. I said, me upon my pony on my boat. I said, me upon my pony on my boat.
Always such great music. Our benediction is the doxology, not a doxology, but a doxology. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, or barked or howled by every tongue. And Teresa's going to help me with the extinguishing of the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you, Teresa. Go in peace, return in love.